Hello everybody, this is Yana here once again, and I'm back with another toy review. Now, to continue with the trend that I set with my Dengar review back here, of reviewing figures that I don't usually take a look at, we're going to look at another Kaiju that I picked up because it's nostalgia time. And here it is, as according to the title, the B Club Cosmo Liquid. Now, according to most archive sites, this was a toy that was never released back in the original run of Bullmark figures. But since B Club is taking over and Bandai's behind everything nowadays, we're finally getting him. And the coloring on this guy actually looks really good, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But in the meantime, before we look at the figure itself, we'll look at the header card. Now, of course, if this looks any familiar to you at all, it's repping the bag that it came with. This is the exact same header card as the one that Dengar came with, except it has this really bad looking sticker on here because it was a Mandarake spot sale item at about 2,000 yen, which is the reason I picked it up, because it was so freaking cheap. And there's a reason for it to be so cheap. Now, don't get me wrong. And of course, it further cements that Earthstron over here is the mascot of the second generation Monster Boom after the original Ultraman and Ultra 7 ended, because he's here again. On the back, we have his name down here, the 2191 Cosmo Liquid, and everything else is identical to what the Dengar header card came with. Now, if you want a better look at the header card, you can look at Dengar's review also on my channel. And with the full package assembled, let's take a look at the toy itself. If you are noticing that light seems to be bouncing off of this guy more than Dengar, you'd be right, because this figure, for whatever reason, has a lot less detail in the sculpting than Dengar did, which is really much kind of bizarre, and it's a lot more stylized than Dengar was. Now, the face has the general shape right, but the paint is completely off for some of the areas. The horns are the two horns here and the one horn here. The horn in the center of the head is covered, but the two horns on the sides are not. Also, the other part of the face sculpt that I really do not like is the fact that it looks like a dolphin or a horse of some sort. It lacks the teeth and the longer lower lip that the actual suit had, which means it's a lot. And since it's a little bigger than what the suit had a rather small head. It loses a lot of the meanness that Cosmo Liquid is commonly associated with, because it was the first, I think it was one of the first few monsters that was shown to actively consume humans. Moving on to the bottom, to the lower part of the body, the chest has this little jigsaw puzzle effect that Cosmo Liquid has. The entire figure remains very smooth throughout. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that, but that might be because it's improving technology, so sculpt work is improving. I don't know, but honestly, I prefer the more haphazard look that Dengar brought to the table. The fins here should be placed a little bit closer to the top of the neck, but they serve as a nice mid-range cape here, and I'm fine with that. The claws are a little too fat, and the feet look okay, and the tail is a little too short, it's way too short, despite having the nice, the nice octopus patterns to them. And when we look at the entire figure as a whole, it's not that bad, but there's a reason why this is a spot sale item, and the reason is that the paint job on this thing was kind of botched. The hands were sprayed with, I guess, really poor quality paint, because it's oversprayed everywhere, and it looks very terrible. The other hand looks a little bit better, but it certainly does look like somebody took a Sofubi vinyl marker or whatever, color marker or whatever, and went over it. The rest of the body doesn't look too bad. The spikes back here look great. The face looks okay, despite having the horrible sculpt work that it does. And the feet look fine. I'm happy with the overall baby blue or turquoise kind of vinyl color that they used, with a little bit of light blue spray. It looks close enough to the original Cosmo Liquid character as it is, but, you know, again, as with Bullmark, it is not a perfect representation, and unfortunately, unlike Dengar, it's a little bit farther off than what this guy offered. Next up, we're moving on to Articulation. Articulation on Cosmo Liquid is pretty standard. It does not have any surprise points that like Dengar had with the tail, even though the tail articulation on Dengar was useless to begin with. But this is one of those characters that should have had a tail that's about as long as Dengar's, maybe if not even more so, because his tail is both curved out to the side and very scrawny, while in the show it was actually fairly long, and he was able to whip Taro with it a number of times. The head rotates 360 degrees with no issue, so that is the surprise point on here that Dengar lacks. The arms rotate a good bit, but they are stopped by the cape. But unlike Dengar, that is actually okay, because you're not going to have the arms wrestled all the way to the back or something. That would be kind of bizarre. And finally, the legs rotate 360 degrees with no problem. And on the bottom of the feet, it says bull mark on the wrong feet this time around, because on Dengar it was the other foot that said bull mark. But Burumaku with the Bandai reprint tag, Bandai over there, and Cosmo Liquid, the name of the Kaiju, stamped on the other foot. No other articulation points are present on this toy, but I believe that is fine the way it is. Finally, let's move on to a little bit of scaling, because it's a Bullmark figure. It's B Club, but it's still Bullmark. Now, if you thought that Dengar was kind of huge for a Kaiju, this guy outclasses Dengar absolutely, completely outclasses the guy. And it's kind of sad, because I was hoping that was going to be kind of like the same height as Dengar, so that we can at least have him fight the Ultrax. But I'm guessing that's not possible at this point. A few more comparisons. Let's compare him to another Bullmark that I have, the Bullmark Sasahealer, or the B Club Sasahealer. This is a reprint. And of course he outclasses Sasahealer too, so I'm guessing that Kaiju grew during this period. However, he is in scale with the bear model, Alien Mephiles, and they don't look too bad next to each other, in my opinion. Now, with this amazing scale in mind, you can kind of tell that this guy will pretty much tower and crush almost anybody else in this opposition. Case in point, let's take a look at Tyrant, the DX figure that came out with the Ginga Sparkdoll line. This figure is impressive. The bulk of it and the length of the tail, which should have been on Neo Geo most, but whatever, it's impressive. But no, Cosmo Liquid completely dominates him. Now, if they shortened the tail and used more depth vinyl for the legs and the upper body, I'd say that it would be more of an even match. But the way it stands, Tyrant is outclassed by a forgotten monster. And since a DX figure wouldn't cut the scale, I pretty much can assure you that even without going to lengths such as using Monsarter, we can kind of tell that 6 inches don't work. So let's try a common Taro figure that I'm pretty sure most people have, Mukadindar, or as my friend Goji73 says, Muka Dighead. And of course, as to be expected, the scale is terrible. And since that's the case, since Ultra Monsters don't work, maybe there's a shred of hope that Ultra Heroes will work. Nope, that's out of the question too. Taro should be a little taller than Jack, but considering all the figures are pretty much the same height, because there is no scale, yeah, there is no chance of Taro fighting this thing either. And if you have the Ultra Taro, unlike me, because I have Jack, and they're both pretty much the same height too, you can kind of tell that there's really not a lot of hope going into this. Yeah. Having him fight Dengar was already kind of a stretch, but having him fight this guy is out of the question. In the end, I give Cosmo Liquid a 4 out of 5. Unlike Dengar, who was pretty much flawless in this execution outside of the hands, the Cosmo Liquid here has a lot of good things going for it, but the big problem is that the face just looks absolutely horrifically wrong. Because I forgot to mention this before in my detail section, but I'm actually going to show you a picture of the original Cosmo Liquid as seen in the Subaraya Monster Encyclopedia that I purchased. And you're going to be able to see that right here, there's Cosmo Liquid with Taro in the background. And as you can see, it loses a lot of the meanness that this sculpt has because of the more rounded features present in the Bullmark toy. Now, is it a bad toy? Definitely not. I think it looks really good for the time, 1973 and all. And honestly, I don't regret picking it up for $20. It's pretty darn good. Despite me giving it a 4 out of 5, I'd still recommend it to just about anybody who wants a big, imposing monster that they can still take fairly seriously. As you can see in the picture from the encyclopedia, the color scheme is fairly close. The green should be a little bit darker to make it more accurate, but, you know, water under the bridge, who cares? In any case, if you can find this guy for under $40, which is fairly easy because it's fairly available on Mandarake, you can very easily find it. If you can find it, go ahead and pick it up. It's a very good toy. But that's it. The overall final score, it's a 4 out of 5. This is Yan9, and I'll see you guys next time.